am dominus cinephile.
Welcome to my movie and TV series reviews, where I will provide honest opinions of the latest releases. If the movie or TV series is a hit or a miss, be sure to know I will inform you. But if the movie or series is trash, be also sure to know that I will trash the hell out of the movie. I am dominus cinephile.
And the movie on the review table today is the Nollywood film Sinfirstkill. Sinfirstkill is a gripping 2025 Nigerian action drama thriller written by Brenda Ogbuka Garuba, Emil Garuba, and Jim Ike. Produced by Jim Ike and directed by the late Dimeji Ajibola alongside Yemi Filmboy Morafa, the film marks one of Nollywood's most ambitious productions with an alleged budget of $2.5 million. It premiered on Amazon Prime Video on July 24th, 2025. Jim Ike leads a powerhouse ensemble cast that includes Tony Tones, Gideonokeke, Adaronke Onuoha, Hermes Iyele, Kelechi Udegbe, Yemi Black, Uzi Usman, Manuel Bimbo, Toke Makinwa, Charles Okocha, and Olumide Oworu. Sinfirstkill tells the explosive story of Tosin Shina, a glamorous Lagos socialite and nightclub owner whose world collapses when her husband, secretly a kingpin in an international drug syndicate, is arrested. Stripped of her wealth and status and left with 2 children to protect, Tosin is given a chilling ultimatum by the cartel's ruthless Lagos boss: take over her husband's operations or face death. What begins as a reluctant survival tactic spirals into a deadly game of deception, violence, and moral decay. With law enforcement tracking her every move and the cartel demanding unwavering loyalty, Tosin walks a razor's edge between self-preservation and destruction. As she plunges deeper into the brutal world of organized crime, one question remains: how far will a mother go to protect her children, and at what cost? This is not just a tale of survival. It's a descent into darkness where loyalty is deadly, betrayal is inevitable, and the first kill changes everything. Now, as always, let's cut through the hype and dissect this review to see if this film actually earns its bizarre, headline-grabbing budget. What initially drew me to this movie was the so-called multi-million-dollar budget that had been plastered all over the internet. I was curious, was this just another one of those infamous Nollywood productions where grand budget claims are made online, only for the final product to feel cheap, rushed, and devoid of any real cinematic value? The film opens with a jarring scene set in the US, where drugs are being packaged by nude women. We are introduced to a few Caucasian actors delivering lines with the enthusiasm of someone reading from a teleprompter, flat, lifeless, and forced. Then, without warning, we are thrust into the Nigerian storyline, where Charles Okocha's character Spider is arrested during a drug raid. And then, there's that spider web on his face, meant to resemble a tattoo. In reality, it looks like a child's Halloween face paint job, cheap, smudgy, and unconvincing. Rather than enhancing the character's menace or backstory, it becomes a distraction, a flimsy, uninspired visual that sums up the movie's overall lack of polish. For a film supposedly backed by millions of dollars, by the time we're finally pulled into the core of the film's plot, things begin to unfold in a frustrating blend of chaos and stagnation. The pacing is all over the place, rushing through key developments, yet dragging through scenes that offer little to no emotional or narrative weight. We're introduced to Tosin Shina, a glamorous socialite and owner of the Sin nightclub, whose world begins to collapse when her husband, Jide, is arrested for drug trafficking. This pivotal moment is clearly intended to serve as the backbone of the story, but the execution is painfully underwhelming. Worse still, the entire plot reeks of borrowed ambition. The concept of a woman being forced to take over her husband's drug empire is a familiar Hollywood trope, one that has worked in shows like Queen of the South or Ozark when handled with depth and tension. But here, It's a hollow imitation. The film lifts ideas without understanding how to make them work within its own cultural or cinematic context. Nollywood often struggles with this, taking compelling concepts without the technical or narrative finesse to develop them. This movie is no different. From Jidai's arrest to Tosin's reluctant entanglement with the cartel, the storytelling lacks urgency, character depth, or emotional stakes. Scenes meander, dialogue stalls, and suspense is nowhere to be found. The worst part? Nothing truly significant happens until the film is nearly over, and even those moments feel weak, lifeless, and entirely devoid of impact. For a movie with such a supposedly high budget and ambitious plotline, Sinfirstkill fails to build tension, excitement, or even a sense of consequence. So much in Sinfirstkill is not just flawed, it's downright mind-numbing. While there are brief flashes of decent cinematography, they're quickly drowned out by a sea of flat, uninspired visuals. For a film allegedly backed by millions, it looks and feels like a rushed student project. The acting? Equally lifeless. Most of the cast sleepwalks through their roles, confusing brooding stares and stiff body language for intense performance. It's as if they were told to look serious, and that alone would carry the weight of the story. It doesn't. It exposes a glaring lack of direction and emotional depth. From the opening scene, the film is already suffering from an identity crisis. The title reads Sinfirstkill, yet Amazon Prime lists it as Sin, First Blood. If a production can't even keep its own title straight across platforms, that's a huge red flag. The inconsistencies don't stop there. Timeline logic and story coherence are all over the place. For instance, cartel members show up at Tosin's house in a flashy convoy of expensive cars for what's supposed to be a covert operation. It's absurd. Subtlety? Non-existent. It's almost laughable how much effort went into showing off luxury vehicles instead of building a believable story. I suppose that's where the mysterious budget went, into styling, not storytelling. Then there's the voiceovers. Multiple characters take turns narrating with no rhythm or purpose, making the tone even more chaotic and fragmented. It's like 5 different movies mashed into one, and none of them makes sense. Tosin's first kill. A moment that should have carried weight, fear, or moral conflict, feels like a cheap, unearned attempt to justify the film's title. The scene itself is poorly choreographed and blatantly ripped off from Ozark. No originality, no build-up, just lazy imitation. And then comes one of the most laughable moments in the entire film. The cartel boss and his men are speaking with Tosin in her home. Mid-conversation, she turns her head and they vanished. Completely. No doors creaking, no footsteps, no exit. Just gone. Like ghosts. Am I supposed to believe they're all ninjas? Or Batman? It's so ludicrous, it borders on parody. By this point, the stupidity was unbearable. What should have been a tense, character-driven crime thriller devolved into a mess of inconsistencies, lazy writing, and pretentious directing choices that try to mask the lack of substance. Let's talk about one scene in Sinfirstkill that had me completely baffled and honestly laughing out loud, not because it was funny, but because the sheer insanity of its execution was mind-blowingly bad. In the scene, Tosin is dragged into an impromptu meeting with key figures in the Lagos drug operation. She's abruptly declared the new head of the cartel. Naturally, one of the men present protests the idea, ranting that a woman shouldn't be in charge. Without warning, the cartel gunman who escorted her to the meeting pulls out his pistol and fires at the man. Now here's where the madness begins. The gun is clearly aimed at the wrong person, the man next to the intended target. Yet somehow, before the gun is even fired, CGI blood spurts out of the actual target's head. Not only is the timing off, but the direction of the blood spatter is completely wrong. Instead of spraying from the back of his skull, which would be consistent with a close-range gunshot to the head, the blood shoots out in front, toward the barrel of the gun. It's as if the effects team has no idea how ballistics or basic anatomy work, and it gets worse. After the man collapses face first onto the table, there's no bullet wound, no entry point, no blood pool, just a clean head on a clean table, as if he took a nap, not a bullet to the skull. At that range, there should have been a gaping wound, explosive blood spray behind the victim, and visible damage to the table surface. Instead, we get a bloodless fall and a magically disappearing bullet. The entire scene feels like it was put together by people who have never watched an actual gunfight in a movie, let alone consulted anyone with real knowledge of firearms or effects. Someone seriously needs to teach the actor how to properly aim a weapon and remind the VFX team that blood doesn't defy physics. If you're going to attempt a violent execution scene, at least get the basics right. What we got was a schoolboy-level blunder dressed up as high-stakes drama. This wasn't just a bad scene, it was insultingly lazy and technically embarrassing. The kind of cinematic error that drags an already fragile film even deeper into parody. Visually, the film leans heavily on the clean, brightly lit cinematography that has become standard in many Nollywood productions. But even that familiar style quickly becomes a liability. The lighting is often overexposed and theatrical, blindingly bright in scenes that demand tension, subtlety, or emotional depth. Instead of enhancing the mood, the lighting drains it. There's no atmospheric control, no tonal variation, no intention, just flat, moodless illumination that leaves every scene feeling emotionally disconnected and visually unremarkable. But if the lighting is bland, the soundtrack is downright disruptive. The film's sound design is a masterclass in poor execution. The soundtrack doesn't support the story, it fights against it. Music cues are dropped in at the wrong moments, destroying tension or drowning out performances. At best, the score is distracting. At worst, it feels completely mismatched, robbing scenes of their emotional weight. The sound engineer clearly lacks an understanding of how to use music as a storytelling tool. In a well-crafted film, sound heightens mood, builds suspense, deepens character moments, and signals emotional shifts. Here, it does none of that. Instead of guiding the audience's feelings, the soundtrack feels like it's slapped on in post-production with no regard for tone, pacing, or dramatic context. It's lazy, amateurish, and contributes heavily to the film's tonal confusion. A strong film uses light and sound to elevate the narrative. In Sinfirstkill, they actively pull it down. Let's dive into the performances, starting with Tony Tones, who plays the lead character, Tosin. Where do I even begin? It's been a long time since I've watched a film where every single actor felt like they were miscast, unprepared, or just uninterested. But Tony Tone's performance stands out for all the wrong reasons. She was flat, unconvincing, and utterly devoid of emotional range. Her portrayal of a woman whose life spirals into the dark underworld of crime should have been layered, intense, and emotionally gripping. Instead, what we got was a lifeless, hollow performance that barely registered any real presence on screen. You start to seriously question how she even landed the role. There was no nuance, no believable fear, no internal conflict. Just a parade of one-liner dialogues delivered with the energy of someone reading cue cards. And she wasn't alone. The rest of the cast followed the same formula: robotic line delivery, awkward expressions, and zero chemistry. The script was already weak, but the acting made it painful. Tony was simply not strong enough to carry the weight of this film. In fact, her performance dragged it down. I've seen more genuine emotion in school plays. Frankly, I've seen better performances from kids at Chrisland School than what she delivered here. If Sinfirstkill was meant to be a showcase for Toni's range, it backfired completely. Her acting did nothing to elevate the story. Instead, it exposed the film's already fragile foundation. Jim Ike plays the lead role in Sinfirstkill, portraying the head of an international drug trafficking ring. But let's be clear, his performance is nothing short of a disaster. I have to hit this hard because he completely butchered a character that should have been menacing, complex, and commanding. Instead of doing the work, building layers, showing emotional depth, or embodying the psychological weight of a crime boss, Jim spends most of the film strutting around in designer suits and flexing in luxury cars. It's more of a fashion shoot than a performance. His idea of intensity seems to be brooding in silence and delivering every line like a monotone threat, except even that falls flat. The moment he opens his mouth, any illusion of danger or authority disappears. There's no nuance, no presence, no internal conflict, just a string of textbook line readings with zero conviction. Let's be honest, there's been no growth. Jim Ike has been giving us the same one-dimensional performances since he first appeared on screen, and it's painfully obvious he's done little to refine his craft. He wasn't a good actor then, and he's certainly not one now. A good actor breathes life into a role. They disappear into the character, using voice, body language, emotion, and timing to draw us in and make us believe. Jim Ike does the opposite. He reminds us in every scene that he's just a guy playing dress-up. No transformation, no risk, no substance. Yes, I said it, and I stand by it. The rest of the cast are just as disappointing, if not worse, than the movie itself. From Gideonokeke to Bimbo Manuel to Hermes Iyele, I honestly couldn't believe what I was watching. Gideon in particular was shockingly underwhelming. An actor who once showed promise delivered a performance so flat, so devoid of energy, it bordered on embarrassing. Every single actor in this film came across as unprepared and emotionally disconnected. Even the two foreign female cast members, clearly included for international appeal, offered nothing of value. Their performances were stiff, their line delivery awkward, and their presence forgettable. What makes it worse is that many of the characters were clearly underwritten. But even within the limited material, these actors failed to inject any life, tension, or meaning. There was no chemistry, no urgency, no character development, just bodies moving through scenes with robotic expressions and empty dialogue. The supporting cast should elevate a film, but here they dragged it down even further. It's a collective failure of direction, casting, and effort. In short, the performances across the board were weak, lifeless, and painfully difficult to watch. In summary, Sin. First Kill is a movie with literally no potential nor motivation to work. It stumbles from the very first scene and never finds its footing. Built on a weak, uninspired plot shamelessly copied from better Hollywood crime thrillers, the film offers nothing fresh. Only a hollow imitation with zero depth or originality. The story, which could have explored complex themes of crime, power, and survival, is instead reduced to a bland, directionless narrative that drags endlessly. Not a single actor delivers a convincing performance. From Tony Tones' lifeless portrayal of Tosin to Jim Ike's cringeworthy, emotionless take on a supposed drug kingpin, to the rest of the cast who seem equally lost and uncommitted. Even the foreign actors feel like cardboard cutouts. Technically, the film is no better. The sound design is all over the place, and the soundtrack is either completely mismatched or dumped into scenes with no emotional or narrative purpose. Instead of enhancing the story, the audio choices distract and annoy, further dragging the film into chaos. And now, word is there's a second installment premiering next month. But let's be honest, after sitting through this mess, it's hard to imagine anyone willingly signing up for more. With the garbage we've already been served, the only thing Sin, First Kill deserves is to be buried, not continued. And now for my rating. Sin, First Kill scores a well-deserved 0 out of 10. I'm definitely trashing this. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and share this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and click on the bell icon for notifications. Also, be sure to follow me on TikTok, WhatsApp channel, and Instagram at Domino Cinephile for more movie and TV series reviews. Domino Cinephile, signing out.